We spend much of our lives unconsciously seeking validation from the world around us. From early childhood, we're trained to look outside of ourselves for approval, to interpret our worth through the eyes of others. Compliments from family, praise from teachers, and admiration from peers become markers of our value. Without realizing it, we learn to associate our sense of self with these external acknowledgements, creating an attachment to the idea that to be liked, applauded, or noticed means we are valuable. Over time, the need for validation becomes less of a gentle nudge and more of a defining force, shaping our choices, dictating our actions, and becoming the lens through which we measure success. This longing for approval extends into all aspects of life: relationships, career, social circles, and even our self-image. We begin to make decisions based not on what we genuinely desire, but on what we think others expect of us. The fear of disappointing others, or of falling short in their eyes, leads us to compromise parts of ourselves. We adjust our words, appearances, and actions to fit a mold, often losing sight of who we truly are beneath the layers of these performances. Relying on external validation feels like walking on unsteady ground. There's never a sense of true stability because we're dependent on factors outside our control. Others' opinions shift, their attention fades, and their praise comes and goes, leaving us constantly craving something we can't hold on to. There is a deep sense of insecurity that comes from living in this way. When we rely on external validation to feel valued, we are, in effect, giving others the power to dictate our worth. We become trapped in a cycle of dependency where each compliment temporarily lifts us, and each criticism or perceived slight sinks us. Our self-worth becomes conditional, resting on something as fragile and transient as another person's opinion. And because no one else can truly see into our hearts or understand our experiences as we do, their judgments are often superficial, based on limited perspectives. Yet, by placing our value in their hands, we allow these incomplete views to shape how we see ourselves. Over time, the pursuit of validation can leave us feeling hollow, as if we're constantly performing, forever adapting to meet the expectations of others. This cycle robs us of the freedom to live authentically, to make choices based on our own values and desires. The more we chase after approval, the further we drift from our own inner voice, burying it beneath layers of self-doubt and social conditioning. Breaking free from the need for external validation is challenging because it requires a fundamental shift in how we view ourselves. It calls for self-acceptance and the courage to find value in who we are, independent of others' opinions. This journey begins with recognizing the myth of external validation, that the approval we seek will make us feel whole or content. True fulfillment comes from within, from knowing that our worth is intrinsic and unshakable, no matter what others might think or say. The digital world has intensified our dependence on external validation, particularly through social media. With each post, share, and update, we open ourselves to the judgments of others, often strangers, whose responses we then use to measure our value. The cycle of posting and waiting for reactions has become so ingrained that it shapes how we see ourselves and what we choose to share. The dopamine rush from each like or comment creates an addictive feedback loop, drawing us back repeatedly to seek more validation. It's a cycle of craving and fulfillment that's short-lived and superficial, yet powerful enough to keep us coming back. Social media platforms are designed to feed this need for validation, capitalizing on our desire for approval. The algorithms reward us for engagement, reinforcing the behavior by showing our content to more people when it gains traction, which in turn reinforces the pursuit of approval. But the more we engage with this cycle, the more we're pulled away from our true selves, increasingly basing our self-worth on metrics like likes, views, and shares. Over time, our need for external validation grows, making it harder to step back and find satisfaction within. Each like on a photo, each positive comment on a post, and every new follower offer a temporary boost, a sense that we are seen and valued. But this validation is fleeting. It fades as quickly as it comes, leaving a sense of emptiness that drives us to post again, seeking the next high. The cycle becomes a form of dependency, where we start to measure our worth not by how we feel about ourselves, but by how others react to our online personas. This dependency distracts us from authentic connections and pulls us further away from understanding our own worth. Breaking free from the cycle of online validation begins with a conscious choice to look inward for fulfillment. It involves questioning why we seek validation in the first place and recognizing the emptiness that follows when we rely on digital responses to feel whole. When we start to view social media as a tool rather than a measure of our value, we regain a sense of control. We can still share our lives with others, but without attaching our self-worth to how many likes or comments we receive. This shift in perspective requires intentional practice, often involving setting boundaries with social media or taking breaks to reconnect with our offline lives. By limiting our exposure to the addictive feedback loop, we allow ourselves to cultivate a stronger sense of self, one that doesn't need constant approval from others. We begin to find joy in our lives for what they are, rather than for how they are perceived. Over time, as we distance ourselves from the need for online validation, we discover a deeper satisfaction within, a sense of contentment that isn't influenced by the opinions or reactions of others. This self-assurance liberates us, allowing us to focus on our own lives, goals, and happiness, without the pressure of constant external approval. We often place significant weight on others' opinions, believing that their judgments have the power to define us. However, the truth is that most opinions are far more fragile and superficial than we realize. People's judgments are frequently formed from limited knowledge and fleeting impressions, shaped by brief interactions or even assumptions. They rarely capture the full picture of who we are, and yet we often allow these surface-level views to sway how we see ourselves. When we pause to consider how little others might actually know about our true selves, we begin to see the frailty of these judgments. Instead of revealing any lasting truth, others' opinions often reveal more about the person making them than about us. People's judgments are frequently rooted in their own insecurities, projections, and limitations. We all experience doubts, fears, and unresolved issues, and sometimes, instead of addressing them, people project them onto others. When someone judges you harshly or fails to recognize your worth, it often has less to do with who you are and more to do with their own struggles. This is why two people can have vastly different opinions of you based on their own unique experiences, biases, and emotional states. Understanding this allows us to detach from the need to constantly interpret and adjust ourselves based on others' views. We start to realize that their judgments are not necessarily reflections of us. Instead, they're reflections of where they are on their own journeys. Relying on others' opinions to define our sense of self can be a delicate trap. As long as we look outward for approval, we'll be chasing validation that is as changeable as the people around us. One day, someone's words may lift us, and the next, another person's judgment might tear us down. It's an unstable foundation for building self-worth. By acknowledging the superficiality of others' views, we begin to break free from this cycle and to reclaim ownership of our self-image. We start to see that our value doesn't fluctuate with the tides of others' perceptions, but rather is grounded in something deeper and more enduring, our own self-understanding and self-respect. Building a sense of self that isn't reliant on external views requires a shift in mindset. It calls for us to look inward and to connect with what truly matters to us. This means developing a relationship with ourselves based on acceptance, compassion, and honesty. When we begin to see our worth through our own eyes, we become less vulnerable to the judgments of others. We stop allowing external opinions to dictate how we feel about ourselves, freeing us to live authentically, aligned with our own values and aspirations. This shift isn't always easy, but it's a powerful step toward a life where our self-worth is stable, resilient, and independent of others' fleeting judgments. The search for validation often leads us to unknowingly hand over our power to others as we place our sense of self in their hands. When we seek approval, we are, in effect, allowing others to dictate our value. This dependence strips us of control, giving people the ability to influence our confidence, happiness, and sense of direction. Each time we wait for a nod of approval or fear, a critical word, we lose a piece of our autonomy, slowly transferring our personal power to those around us. Reclaiming this power means recognizing that validation, at its core, must come from within. Focusing inward is one of the most liberating choices we can make, as it reorients us toward our true source of strength and worth. When we prioritize our inner voice over the voices of others, we begin to cultivate a stable foundation of self-respect. This inward focus allows us to ground ourselves in our own beliefs, values, and aspirations, independent of others' opinions. Rather than waiting for the world to acknowledge us, we find the courage to acknowledge ourselves. This shift offers a powerful sense of freedom, allowing us to pursue a path that is genuine and fulfilling, not shaped by the whims or expectations of others. To reclaim our power over self-worth, practical steps are essential. One of the most effective steps is to practice self-reflection regularly. Taking time to evaluate our choices, actions, and values helps us understand what truly matters to us, allowing us to make decisions that are aligned with our authentic selves. Through this process, we grow more comfortable trusting our own instincts and values rather than seeking reassurance from others. Self-reflection also helps us identify the moments when we've allowed others' opinions to overshadow our inner voice, empowering us to consciously choose a different path. Setting boundaries is another critical step in reclaiming personal power. Boundaries allow us to protect our mental and emotional well-being, helping us to prioritize our needs without guilt. When we create boundaries around whom we let influence our lives, we safeguard our self-worth from unnecessary external interference. This may mean limiting time with people who drain our energy, or minimizing exposure to social media that invites comparisons. By defining these boundaries, we reinforce our sense of autonomy and protect the space needed for personal growth and self-appreciation. Another practical approach to reclaiming control over our self-worth is to engage in self-compassion. Self-compassion teaches us to treat ourselves with kindness and understanding, especially when things don't go as planned or when we face criticism. When we practice self-compassion, we are less likely to rely on others to affirm us, as we learn to provide the support we need internally. This compassionate approach builds resilience, giving us the strength to move forward confidently without seeking constant reassurance. By nurturing ourselves with patience and encouragement, we regain the confidence that others' opinions cannot grant us. In reclaiming our power, we embrace the responsibility of defining our own worth, not as an act of defiance, but as a path to inner peace. We begin to understand that our value is intrinsic, that it doesn't require validation to exist. By focusing inward, setting boundaries, and practicing self-compassion, we create a strong, self-sustaining foundation that cannot be shaken by others' judgments. This journey of self-reclamation restores our personal power, offering us the freedom to live authentically with purpose, and on our own terms. Shifting from external to inner validation requires a fundamental change in mindset, a conscious choice to stop looking outward for confirmation of our worth. Instead of asking, "Do they approve of me?" or "Am I enough in their eyes?" we begin to ask ourselves, "Do I approve of myself?" This shift from seeking external validation to relying on our own internal compass allows us to find stability, free from the constant roller coaster of others' opinions. Making this transition starts with a simple yet powerful realization. Our worth doesn't need validation from anyone else. It's inherent, unchanging, and wholly within us. Recognizing intrinsic worth is key to this transformation. Unlike external validation, which is dependent on fluctuating opinions, intrinsic worth is constant. It's the understanding that, as individuals, we are valuable simply because we exist. Celebrating intrinsic worth involves acknowledging our unique qualities, our strengths, and even our weaknesses, with a sense of acceptance and pride. When we stop looking for others to confirm our value, we give ourselves permission to truly see and honor our own potential. This recognition creates a deeper sense of peace, as we begin to feel complete without needing validation from the outside world. Building self-assurance through inner validation is a process that requires practice, especially when we're accustomed to seeking approval externally. One way to cultivate this assurance is through self-acknowledgement, taking time to reflect on our achievements, the challenges we've overcome, and the values we live by. Rather than waiting for others to notice, we become our own source of encouragement. By regularly acknowledging our growth and efforts, we build a solid foundation of self-confidence. Inner validation strengthens this foundation, helping us to trust our own judgment, regardless of whether others agree or acknowledge our progress. This journey of inner validation also involves reorienting our focus from how others see us to how we feel about ourselves. We begin to measure success not by others' reactions, but by the alignment of our actions with our personal values. This shift allows us to prioritize what truly matters to us, without feeling pressured to meet others' expectations. Over time, this inner-centered way of living frees us from the anxiety of comparison or approval-seeking, allowing us to live with a sense of integrity and authenticity. It is in this place of inner validation that we find true self-assurance, grounded in who we are, not in how we are perceived. Society often imposes a relentless pressure to appear perfect, shaping an ideal that many strive to reach but few, if any, can attain. Through media, advertising, and even social norms, we're bombarded with images of perfection, successful careers, flawless bodies, ideal relationships, and impeccable lifestyles. This pursuit of perfection is an illusion, yet it's powerful enough to influence our behavior, making us feel that any imperfection diminishes our worth. Society's unspoken demand for perfection creates a mindset that tells us we are only as good as our achievements, appearances, and social standing. But the truth is, this chase for an unattainable ideal often leaves us feeling inadequate and exhausted. The pressure to appear perfect masks a deeper need for acceptance, not only from others, but also from ourselves. In striving to meet impossible standards, we attempt to shield ourselves from judgment, rejection, and criticism. Yet, in doing so, we often lose sight of who we really are. Perfection is, in many ways, a barrier, an effort to hide our perceived flaws, weaknesses, and struggles. But in reality, it is these so-called imperfections that make us human, relatable, and unique. By clinging to an idealized image, we risk disconnecting from our true selves, pushing aside the parts of us that don't fit society's narrow definition of perfect. Accepting imperfection as part of growth is a liberating choice. It allows us to view our shortcomings not as failures, but as opportunities for self-discovery and improvement. When we let go of the need to appear flawless, we create space to explore our true selves without judgment. This acceptance brings with it a sense of peace, as we no longer feel pressured to uphold a false image. Instead of seeing mistakes or imperfections as something to be hidden, we start to recognize them as natural steps along the path to growth. In this acceptance, we build resilience and self-compassion, learning that being imperfect does not make us any less valuable. Embracing our authentic selves over an idealized image is a radical act in a world obsessed with perfection. It requires courage to show up as we truly are, with all of our quirks, flaws, and uncertainties. This choice to be genuine reflects a deep respect for ourselves and our unique journey. When we choose authenticity over perfection, we give ourselves permission to be real, honest, and vulnerable. We begin to see that it is our authenticity, not an idealized image, that fosters true connection and acceptance. Others are drawn to our realness, not to a facade of perfection, and in showing up authentically, we encourage those around us to do the same. Living authentically means embracing the messiness of life, understanding that we are complete, not despite our imperfections, but because of them. By stepping away from society's relentless pursuit of perfection, we reclaim our right to be ourselves. This decision fosters a deeper sense of self-worth, one that isn't diminished by the inevitabilities of life's ups and downs. We come to understand that true fulfillment is found not in achieving perfection, but in living fully as ourselves, embracing every part of who we are. Through this acceptance, we break free from the illusion of perfection, discovering a life that is rich, meaningful, and uniquely ours. Vulnerability is often seen as a form of weakness, something to be avoided or hidden. But true vulnerability is one of the greatest strengths we can cultivate. Embracing vulnerability means allowing ourselves to be seen, flaws and all, without the mask of perfection or pretense. It requires courage to open up, to share parts of ourselves that may not align with the world's expectations, and to admit when we feel uncertain, hurt, or afraid. In doing so, we step into our power, trusting that our worth is not diminished by our imperfections, but enhanced by our honesty. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we demonstrate a deep, unwavering strength, the strength to be fully human, to face life authentically. Authenticity and vulnerability go hand in hand, as authenticity requires us to live in alignment with who we truly are, not who we think others want us to be. When we are authentic, we don't hide parts of ourselves out of fear of rejection or judgment. Instead, we embrace our individuality, standing firmly in our values, beliefs, and experiences. This honesty builds self-trust, as we no longer need to rely on others to validate our choices or tell us who we should be. We become our own anchor, grounded in the truth of our identity. Authenticity allows us to navigate life with integrity and confidence, free from the need for approval or acceptance from others. Over time, this alignment with our true selves fosters a profound sense of peace and resilience. Letting go of the need to hide our flaws or mold ourselves to fit others' expectations is liberating. When we embrace authenticity, we free ourselves from the exhausting task of maintaining a perfect image. We stop shrinking ourselves to make others comfortable or hiding parts of ourselves to gain approval. Vulnerability becomes a bridge, connecting us to others in deeper, more meaningful ways. People are drawn to realness, to the courage it takes to show up as we are, with all of our imperfections. By letting go of the need to mask our true selves, we attract relationships and connections that honor and respect our authenticity, building bonds rooted in trust, understanding, and acceptance. Living authentically also means accepting that not everyone will appreciate or understand us, and that's okay. When we choose to be true to ourselves, we understand that those who genuinely value us will accept us as we are. We stop chasing superficial connections and instead nurture relationships with people who see us fully and love us without conditions. Vulnerability and authenticity open us to the possibility of rejection, but they also allow us to experience deeper love, acceptance, and connection. In this honesty, we find a strength that transcends the need to be perfect or flawless, a strength that arises from knowing and accepting ourselves completely. Boundaries are often misunderstood as barriers that keep others at a distance, but in reality, they are a powerful form of self-respect. Setting boundaries is an act of valuing our time, energy, and well-being, recognizing that we cannot give endlessly without becoming depleted. Healthy boundaries are not about shutting people out. They're about protecting the space we need to live authentically and fulfill our responsibilities to ourselves. By establishing limits, we prioritize our mental and emotional health, ensuring that we have the resources to show up fully for the things that matter most to us. Boundaries allow us to take ownership of our lives, to safeguard our sense of self from becoming entangled in the demands and expectations of others. Setting boundaries with others requires a willingness to say no when something doesn't align with our values or priorities. This can be challenging, especially if we've been conditioned to prioritize others' needs above our own. The act of saying no often triggers feelings of guilt, as we fear disappointing people or being seen as unkind. However, learning to say no is one of the most empowering steps we can take in protecting our energy and focus. It's a recognition that we are not responsible for pleasing everyone or meeting every demand placed upon us. By saying no, we are affirming that our time and well-being are valuable, that we have the right to prioritize ourselves without apology. Boundaries are an essential tool for self-care, enabling us to create a balance between giving to others and nurturing ourselves. When we fail to set boundaries, we risk burnout, resentment, and a diminished sense of self-worth. Without boundaries, we may feel as though we are constantly pulled in different directions, stretched thin by the expectations of others. Establishing clear limits allows us to take back control, to create a life where our actions are aligned with our goals and values. Boundaries provide the structure we need to make intentional choices, giving us the freedom to invest our energy in the people and activities that genuinely enrich our lives. Setting boundaries also requires self-awareness and an understanding of our own needs and limits. It involves recognizing the situations and relationships that drain us and being honest about where we need to draw the line. This self-awareness helps us identify when we are overextending ourselves or compromising our well-being to accommodate others. By setting limits, we establish a clear message that we respect ourselves and expect others to respect our boundaries. In doing so, we attract relationships that are healthier and more balanced, where mutual respect forms the foundation of our interactions. The practice of setting boundaries builds resilience and self-respect, reinforcing the belief that we are deserving of peace, respect, and time for self-care. Each time we honor our limits, we strengthen our sense of self-worth, reminding ourselves that we have a right to our own time, space, and energy. Boundaries protect our mental and emotional health, allowing us to focus on our growth, well-being, and personal goals. They empower us to live intentionally, aligned with our values and aspirations, without being consumed by the expectations or needs of others. Learning to say no is an invaluable skill, a quiet declaration that we have the right to choose where our energy goes. By setting boundaries, we create a life that is sustainable, fulfilling, and true to who we are. This choice to protect our space and honor our needs is a profound act of self-respect, one that reminds us of our intrinsic worth and the importance of living authentically. Boundaries allow us to invest in our own well-being, to show up fully in the areas that matter most, and to navigate life with clarity and confidence. Comparison is a thief of joy, one that quietly invades our thoughts and diverts our focus from what truly matters. When we compare ourselves to others, we lose sight of our own progress, growth, and unique path. It's easy to fall into the trap of measuring our lives against those around us, especially when we're surrounded by images of others' successes, achievements, and seemingly perfect lives. But comparison is inherently flawed. It doesn't consider the full story, nor does it acknowledge the individuality of our journeys. Every person's path is distinct, shaped by personal experiences, challenges, and goals that are as unique as fingerprints. When we shift our focus from comparison to self-awareness, we reclaim our joy, allowing ourselves to find fulfillment in our own lives without the need to measure against others. Comparison not only steals joy, but also stunts growth. By focusing on where others are, we lose valuable time and energy that could be directed toward our own development. This fixation on others' lives keeps us from fully investing in our own. We become distracted, constantly wondering if we measure up rather than considering how far we've come. Growth is a deeply personal process, one that flourishes when we embrace our own path and engage with our unique challenges and aspirations. By detaching from comparison, we open the door to authentic growth, grounded in our own progress rather than external benchmarks. Finding value in our unique path is a liberating realization. Each of us has a purpose, a set of talents, and a journey that is distinct. When we appreciate our uniqueness, we stop viewing ourselves as less than or more than someone else. Instead, we begin to understand that our worth and potential are not defined by anyone else's achievements. Each step we take, each lesson we learn, adds to the richness of our lives in a way that is irreplaceable. This shift in perspective allows us to focus on what truly matters, our own values, dreams, and the progress we make along the way. When we honor our own journey, we cultivate a sense of purpose and direction that is free from the shadows of comparison. Focusing on progress rather than measuring ourselves against others is key to personal fulfillment. Progress, no matter how small, is a sign of growth and commitment to our own path. By setting personal goals and recognizing our achievements, we create a sustainable source of motivation that isn't dependent on external validation. This focus on progress keeps us grounded, encouraging us to celebrate the journey rather than fixating on the destination. We learn to value each step forward, understanding that growth is a process, not a competition. As we focus on our progress, we begin to experience a deeper satisfaction, one that is based on self-awareness and acceptance rather than comparison. Self-compassion is a powerful practice, one that shifts us from self-criticism to self-kindness, transforming how we view ourselves and our lives. Many of us are conditioned to be our harshest critics, quick to judge ourselves for perceived shortcomings, mistakes, or failures. This self-critical mindset often stems from a belief that we must be hard on ourselves to improve. But self-compassion reveals a different truth, that kindness, rather than criticism, fosters growth and resilience. When we treat ourselves with compassion, we create a supportive inner environment where we can learn, heal, and move forward with confidence. Self-kindness doesn't mean ignoring our mistakes. Rather, it means acknowledging them with understanding, allowing ourselves to grow without fear of judgment. Recognizing mistakes as part of growth is an essential component of self-compassion. Mistakes are inevitable, a natural part of life and learning. When we view them as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks, we give ourselves the freedom to evolve without the burden of shame or guilt. Mistakes don't define us. They simply show us where we can grow, where we can improve, and what we can learn. By embracing this perspective, we begin to see that our worth isn't tied to perfection. Self-compassion reminds us that we are allowed to be imperfect, to fall short, and to keep going regardless. This mindset transforms mistakes into valuable lessons, paving the way for continual growth. Practical ways to nurture self-compassion daily include practices that reinforce kindness, patience, and understanding toward ourselves. One effective method is through self-affirmation, a practice of reminding ourselves of our worth and resilience, especially in moments of self-doubt. By consciously affirming our value, we create a mental habit of kindness, replacing critical thoughts with compassionate ones. Another approach is to practice mindfulness, where we observe our thoughts and emotions without judgment. When we notice self-critical thoughts arising, we gently acknowledge them and then let them go, choosing instead to respond with understanding. Journaling can also be a powerful tool for cultivating self-compassion. By writing down our experiences, emotions, and thoughts, we gain clarity on our inner landscape. Through this process, we can challenge our critical inner voice and replace it with a kinder, more supportive one. We can also use journaling to acknowledge our accomplishments and celebrate small victories, reinforcing the habit of self-appreciation. These acts of kindness help to counteract the effects of self-criticism, gradually shifting our self-talk from harsh to gentle, from judgmental to encouraging. Another key to nurturing self-compassion is practicing gratitude, especially toward ourselves. By taking a moment each day to recognize something we're grateful for about ourselves, whether it's a quality, an accomplishment, or simply the effort we put into our day, we reinforce the habit of self-acceptance. Gratitude helps us see ourselves in a positive light, reminding us that we are worthy of appreciation, both from ourselves and from others. This practice of self-gratitude strengthens our inner foundation, helping us to approach life with a sense of wholeness and contentment. Self-compassion is a journey, one that requires patience and persistence. But as we practice it daily, we begin to experience a profound shift in how we see ourselves and our place in the world. Self-compassion allows us to embrace the full spectrum of who we are, including our strengths and weaknesses, our triumphs and mistakes. In this acceptance, we find a deeper sense of peace, knowing that we are enough just as we are. This foundation of self-compassion becomes the springboard for growth, resilience, and fulfillment, empowering us to live authentically, grounded in kindness toward ourselves. Letting go of the need to control how others perceive us is a journey toward inner peace and authenticity. We often spend significant energy worrying about what others think, attempting to manage their impressions of us through our words, actions, and appearances. This need for control is rooted in a desire for approval and validation, yet the reality is that we can never fully control how others see us. People's perceptions are shaped by their own beliefs, experiences, and biases, factors over which we have no influence. Recognizing this truth allows us to release the burden of managing others' views, freeing ourselves to live genuinely without the pressure to constantly seek validation. Accepting that we cannot control others' thoughts requires a shift in perspective, a recognition that people will interpret us through their own filters, often inaccurately. This acceptance brings a sense of relief, as it allows us to detach from the expectations or judgments of others. When we realize that no amount of effort will guarantee the approval of everyone, we start to focus on what we can control, our own beliefs, values, and actions. By grounding ourselves in self-acceptance, we stop seeking approval externally and find peace in the knowledge that we are enough as we are. This inner alignment becomes a shield, allowing us to move through life with confidence and resilience, regardless of others' perceptions. Releasing the urge to manage others' views of us opens up a path to authenticity. When we stop performing or altering ourselves to fit others' expectations, we give ourselves permission to be true to who we are. This authenticity is a powerful act of self-respect, an acknowledgement that we don't need to prove our worth or mold ourselves to please others. In choosing to live authentically, we attract people who appreciate us for our true selves, while allowing those who don't to move on without affecting our sense of self-worth. This release from control is liberating, freeing us to invest our energy in the things that matter to us, rather than in the futile task of managing others' opinions. The freedom that comes with detachment from others' opinions is profound. When we let go of the need to be understood or approved by everyone, we gain a deeper sense of self-empowerment. We start to live for ourselves, setting our own standards for happiness and fulfillment. This detachment doesn't mean we become indifferent to others or dismissive of feedback. Rather, it means that we no longer allow others' perceptions to define our self-worth. We become more resilient, capable of navigating criticism and rejection without losing our sense of identity. In this detachment, we find the peace and clarity to live authentically, grounded in our own values, without being swayed by external judgments. Setting goals for ourselves is a powerful step toward living a life of personal fulfillment, rather than one shaped by societal expectations. Many of us are conditioned to set goals based on external achievements, titles, status, wealth, or recognition that align with what society deems successful. But these external measures rarely lead to deep fulfillment. True satisfaction comes from goals that resonate with our inner values, passions, and purpose. When we shift from focusing on what we should achieve to what genuinely excites and motivates us, we begin to build a life that feels meaningful and aligned with who we are at our core. This shift involves redefining success in personal terms, setting goals that reflect our unique journey rather than conforming to society's expectations. It requires introspection, a willingness to ask ourselves what truly matters and why. Perhaps success for one person is about fostering deep relationships, while for another it's about creativity, learning, or personal growth. By identifying goals that align with our values, we create a roadmap that feels both inspiring and authentic. This approach not only enhances our motivation, but also sustains us through challenges, as our pursuit is driven by genuine passion rather than a desire to meet external standards. A progress-oriented, flexible approach to goal setting is essential for achieving lasting fulfillment. Traditional goal setting can be rigid, often focusing solely on end results, without accounting for the journey or changes in circumstances. But life is unpredictable, and as we grow, our priorities may shift. A flexible approach allows us to adapt our goals as we gain new insights, skills, and perspectives. Instead of viewing adjustments as failures, we learn to see them as natural steps in our personal evolution. This flexibility keeps us open to new opportunities, enabling us to pursue goals in a way that feels organic rather than forced. Focusing on progress rather than perfection in goal setting also brings a sense of joy to the journey. When we celebrate each step forward, no matter how small, we stay motivated and engaged, recognizing that growth is an ongoing process. This progress-oriented mindset helps us avoid the burnout that often comes from chasing distant, rigid objectives. By focusing on the journey and allowing ourselves to change course when needed, we create a fulfilling path that respects both our aspirations and our well-being. Each milestone becomes a reminder of our dedication to our own happiness, an achievement rooted in self-respect and inner satisfaction. Setting personal goals aligned with our values gives us a deep sense of purpose and clarity. It empowers us to move through life with intention, making choices that reflect who we are and what we stand for. In this approach, success is no longer defined by accolades or approval, but by the sense of accomplishment that comes from living authentically. Each goal becomes a step toward a life that feels whole, purposeful, and deeply fulfilling, guiding us toward a future that is uniquely and meaningfully our own. Finding fulfillment in the present moment is a skill that transforms the way we experience life. Many of us are conditioned to think, "I'll be happy when," filling in the blank with future achievements, acquisitions, or milestones. This way of thinking creates a cycle of perpetual striving, where happiness always seems just out of reach. We convince ourselves that contentment lies somewhere in the future, tethered to an idealized version of life that never fully arrives. But true fulfillment is found not in a distant moment or goal, but in the ability to appreciate where we are right now. Shifting away from "I'll be happy when" thinking frees us from the trap of constantly chasing an elusive future, allowing us to find joy and satisfaction in the present. Practicing gratitude is one of the most effective ways to appreciate what we have now. By focusing on the blessings, opportunities, and small joys in our lives, we train ourselves to see the abundance that already surrounds us. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we already possess, helping us to cultivate a mindset of sufficiency and contentment. It encourages us to find beauty in the ordinary: a warm cup of coffee, a conversation with a friend, a peaceful moment in nature. As we practice gratitude, we begin to see that fulfillment isn't something we need to chase. It's something we can cultivate by being present and thankful for what life offers us each day. Cultivating a mindset of abundance through mindfulness brings a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment. Mindfulness invites us to slow down, to experience life as it unfolds, without getting lost in thoughts of the past or future. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to approach each moment with an open, non-judgmental awareness, savoring the richness of our experiences. This presence creates a sense of abundance, as we recognize that we already have enough and are enough right here and now. By being fully present, we break free from the scarcity mindset that drives us to seek more, reminding ourselves that true happiness is found in embracing the present moment as it is. This approach to life, finding fulfillment in the present and practicing gratitude, fosters resilience, helping us to face challenges with a balanced perspective. When we're grounded in the present, we're less affected by fleeting highs and lows, as we know that our happiness isn't tied to external circumstances or future achievements. This detachment from "I'll be happy when" thinking frees us to live fully, appreciating each day as a unique gift. The result is a life that feels rich, meaningful, and whole, a life where we experience fulfillment not as a distant goal, but as an everyday reality. Choosing growth over comfort is a decision that paves the way for genuine personal progress. Growth rarely occurs within the boundaries of our comfort zones. Instead, it requires us to step into the unknown, to face challenges that test our resilience and stretch our capabilities. While staying comfortable may feel safe, it often leads to stagnation, a gradual narrowing of possibilities that limits our potential. Choosing growth means embracing discomfort as a necessary part of evolution, understanding that true progress requires us to push beyond familiar limits. It's in these moments of challenge and uncertainty that we discover our strength and expand our sense of what's possible. Embracing discomfort as a path to personal progress involves reframing our relationship with challenge. Rather than seeing discomfort as something to be avoided, we begin to view it as an opportunity for growth. Discomfort signals that we're stepping into new territory, that we're taking on experiences or challenges that will ultimately enhance our skills, deepen our understanding, and build our resilience. Each time we choose growth over comfort, we reinforce our capacity to handle life's inevitable difficulties, building a mental and emotional foundation that can withstand setbacks and adapt to change. Embracing discomfort transforms it from an obstacle into a powerful catalyst for personal development. There are practical ways to push our limits and evolve that can make the journey less daunting. Setting incremental goals, for example, allows us to break down big challenges into manageable steps. By taking on small, achievable tasks that stretch us little by little, we gradually expand our comfort zones without feeling overwhelmed. This approach builds confidence, each success reinforcing our belief in our ability to handle new challenges. Another practical strategy is to seek out learning experiences, whether through reading, taking a class, or engaging with people who have different perspectives. Exposing ourselves to new knowledge and viewpoints challenges our assumptions, encouraging us to grow mentally and emotionally. Practicing self-compassion as we navigate discomfort is also essential. Growth isn't always linear. There will be setbacks and moments of doubt. By approaching ourselves with patience and understanding, we create a supportive environment in which to evolve. Self-compassion helps us to see failures and mistakes as part of the learning process, rather than as reasons to retreat back into our comfort zones. This approach encourages us to keep moving forward, knowing that growth is an ongoing journey, one that requires persistence as much as it does courage. Each time we extend kindness to ourselves, we strengthen our resolve to face discomfort with an open mind and a willing heart. Choosing growth over comfort brings a profound sense of fulfillment as we come to see ourselves as capable, resilient, and adaptive. This path leads us to discover strengths we didn't know we had, to reach milestones we once thought impossible, and to live with a sense of purpose and direction. Growth requires vulnerability, the courage to face challenges, and the humility to accept that we don't have all the answers. But this journey toward self-expansion is what makes life vibrant and meaningful. By continually choosing growth, we unlock our potential, creating a life that is rich in experiences, wisdom, and self-discovery. Redefining success on your own terms is an act of reclaiming control over your life, allowing you to pursue goals and values that feel meaningful and aligned with who you truly are. Society often presents a rigid blueprint for success: accumulating wealth, climbing career ladders, acquiring social status, often leaving people striving for achievements that don't necessarily bring personal fulfillment. This one-size-fits-all approach overlooks the diversity of individual desires, talents, and dreams, leading many to measure their lives by standards that don't resonate with them. Breaking away from society's definitions of success requires courage, but it's a choice that opens the door to a life that feels genuine and fulfilling, grounded in your unique vision of what it means to be successful. Setting success standards that align with your values is a transformative step in this journey. Instead of chasing external markers of success, take time to reflect on what truly matters to you. Maybe success means creating work-life balance, nurturing close relationships, or contributing to your community. For some, it might involve cultivating creativity or pursuing knowledge, while for others, it's about living a peaceful, contented life. These personal standards empower you to create a life that is meaningful and satisfying, unburdened by external pressures. When you align your definition of success with your values, each achievement, no matter how small, feels rewarding as it reflects your own purpose rather than societal expectations. Recognizing that true success is personal and subjective is both freeing and empowering. Success isn't a destination that everyone reaches in the same way. It's a personal journey that unfolds uniquely for each individual. When we embrace the subjectivity of success, we become less concerned with comparing ourselves to others, knowing that their paths have no bearing on our own. This shift helps us to appreciate the richness of our experiences, to celebrate achievements that may go unnoticed by others but hold deep meaning for us. By defining success in ways that resonate with us, we find joy and satisfaction in our lives as they are, rather than constantly striving for a future that matches others' expectations. Living with a self-defined view of success also brings resilience, as it fosters a sense of self-assuredness and inner peace. We become more grounded, less swayed by society's fleeting trends or external judgments. In this grounded state, we pursue our goals with clarity and purpose, knowing that our journey is our own. True success becomes less about reaching a final outcome and more about aligning each day with our values, embracing the present, and finding fulfillment in a life that feels honest and true. Building resilience through self-focus is a powerful practice that strengthens your ability to face challenges without losing your sense of self. When we focus on ourselves, our values, needs, and goals, we cultivate an inner resilience that isn't easily shaken by external pressures or adversity. Resilience isn't about avoiding difficulties. It's about developing the mental and emotional fortitude to handle them when they arise. By centering ourselves in our own lives, we learn to trust our ability to navigate life's challenges independently, building a core of strength that supports us through the ups and downs of life. This self-reliance becomes the bedrock of resilience, allowing us to face obstacles with confidence and calm. Facing challenges without needing others' approval reinforces this resilience. When we're constantly seeking validation, we give others the power to influence how we feel about ourselves, leaving us vulnerable to criticism and doubt. But when we rely on our own sense of self-worth, external opinions lose their hold over us. We become less concerned with how others perceive us and more focused on our own progress and well-being. This shift helps us to face challenges with a clear mind and a steady heart, knowing that our worth is not dependent on anyone's approval or opinion. Each time we face adversity without seeking validation, we strengthen our resilience, building a foundation of self-trust that endures through life's storms. Developing a strong sense of self in the face of adversity requires self-awareness and commitment. Self-focus doesn't mean isolating ourselves from others. It means grounding ourselves in our own values and beliefs, knowing what we stand for and what we're striving toward. This inner clarity acts as a compass, guiding us through difficult times and helping us make choices that reflect our true selves. When we know who we are, we're less likely to be swayed by fear, doubt, or the opinions of others. This sense of self provides a solid foundation from which we can face challenges with courage, resilience, and authenticity. Practical ways to build resilience through self-focus include practices like mindfulness, self-reflection, and setting boundaries. Mindfulness keeps us grounded in the present moment, helping us to face challenges with clarity rather than getting caught up in fear or anticipation. Self-reflection allows us to learn from our experiences, transforming setbacks into valuable lessons. And setting boundaries protects our energy, enabling us to focus on what truly matters without being overwhelmed by external demands. Each of these practices strengthens our resilience by anchoring us in our own values, priorities, and well-being. Building resilience also involves accepting that setbacks are part of the journey. Life is filled with unexpected twists and turns, and resilience doesn't mean avoiding these challenges. It means finding a way to keep going despite them. When we focus on ourselves, we recognize that setbacks are opportunities for growth, that each obstacle teaches us something valuable about our strength, adaptability, and capacity for change. This mindset transforms adversity into a stepping stone, a chance to deepen our resilience and become more aligned with our own path. In a world where approval seeking is common, focusing on yourself is a radical act of self-empowerment. This self-focus strengthens your resilience, helping you to withstand life's challenges with a sense of purpose and confidence. Each time you face adversity from a place of self-assurance, you reinforce your inner strength, becoming more capable, grounded, and resilient. Resilience isn't about avoiding hardship. It's about knowing that, regardless of what comes your way, you have the power to face it, to grow through it, and to remain true to yourself. Practicing self-reflection as a means of self-growth is an invaluable habit, one that enables us to understand ourselves more deeply and to recognize the areas where we can evolve. In a fast-paced world, it's easy to move from one experience to the next without pausing to consider how our actions align with our values or how our experiences shape us. Yet, making time for regular introspection is crucial for genuine growth. Self-reflection allows us to examine our choices, behaviors, and thoughts, giving us the clarity to understand our strengths and address areas that may need improvement. It's a practice that turns each day into an opportunity for learning and growth, helping us live in alignment with who we truly want to be. Through self-reflection, we uncover strengths we may have overlooked and become aware of patterns that could hold us back. This awareness is empowering. It reveals the qualities that make us resilient, compassionate, or capable, as well as the habits or beliefs that may limit our potential. For example, we might notice that we have a tendency to procrastinate or that we are quick to judge ourselves harshly. Recognizing these patterns allows us to make conscious adjustments, setting ourselves up for more purposeful progress. Self-reflection gives us the tools to refine our path, cultivating strengths and addressing weaknesses so that we're always moving closer to the best version of ourselves. Practical methods to cultivate self-awareness through self-reflection vary, and each person may find unique techniques that resonate. Journaling is one of the most effective tools for self-reflection, as it allows us to put our thoughts on paper, making it easier to observe patterns and process emotions. Writing about our experiences, feelings, and reactions offers a way to step back and see things more objectively. Meditation is another powerful method, helping us to quiet the mind and observe our thoughts without judgment. In stillness, we gain insight into our subconscious beliefs and motivations, seeing them clearly so that we can work with them consciously. Asking ourselves intentional questions is also an excellent way to deepen self-reflection. Questions like, "What am I grateful for?" "What did I learn today?" or "How did I handle a challenge?" prompt us to think critically about our day and our responses to it. These questions help us to become more mindful of our choices, reactions, and progress, fostering a habit of self-awareness that keeps us connected to our values and goals. By regularly engaging in self-reflection, we cultivate an inner compass that guides us, ensuring that our actions reflect our deepest values and aspirations. Embracing imperfection in relationships is an essential step toward building genuine, meaningful connections. Many people feel pressure to present an idealized version of themselves in relationships, driven by a need to be liked or accepted. But striving for perfection in our relationships often leads to disconnection, as it prevents us from being truly authentic. Letting go of the need to please everyone is liberating. It allows us to approach relationships with honesty and openness, rather than with a constant fear of judgment or rejection. When we accept that we don't have to meet everyone's expectations, we create space for relationships that are rooted in genuine mutual respect, where both people are free to be themselves without pretending or performing. Building authentic connections based on mutual respect requires vulnerability and courage. Authenticity invites us to show up as we are, with our strengths and flaws alike, trusting that true connection doesn't require perfection. By being honest about who we are, we encourage others to do the same, fostering relationships that are supportive, understanding, and accepting. In these authentic connections, we don't feel the need to hide our imperfections or constantly seek approval. Instead, we know that we are valued for who we are, not for who we think we should be. This mutual respect creates a foundation of trust, where both people feel safe to express themselves fully. Recognizing that being imperfect is part of being relatable makes relationships richer and more meaningful. Our imperfections make us human, approachable, and easy to connect with. When we stop trying to be flawless, we allow others to see our real selves, which in turn invites them to share their true selves. This openness builds empathy and understanding as we see each other's struggles, strengths, and vulnerabilities. Authentic relationships thrive on this openness, as both people can offer support, encouragement, and compassion without the unrealistic expectation of perfection. By embracing our imperfections, we make room for deeper bonds, where acceptance and understanding are at the heart of every interaction. In practical terms, embracing imperfection in relationships means being honest about our boundaries, emotions, and needs. It involves communicating openly, even when it feels uncomfortable, and trusting that genuine connection can withstand moments of disagreement or vulnerability. It's about letting go of the need to always have the right answer, to be constantly agreeable, or to hide our flaws. Instead, we practice showing up as we are, confident in the knowledge that authenticity fosters stronger, more fulfilling connections. Embracing imperfection doesn't mean settling for less in our relationships or excusing harmful behavior. Rather, it's about accepting the natural human messiness that everyone brings into relationships, including ourselves. This acceptance helps us approach others with more patience and empathy, understanding that they too are navigating their own complexities. By valuing authenticity over perfection, we cultivate relationships that are both resilient and meaningful, rooted in mutual respect and acceptance. These connections bring a sense of peace and joy, as we realize that we don't have to be anything other than ourselves to be truly loved and valued. The freedom of letting go is one of life's most profound gifts, offering liberation from the burdens of control and expectation. Many of us carry an underlying need to manage outcomes, to control situations, and to ensure that life unfolds according to our plans. This desire for control often stems from a fear of the unknown or an attachment to certain outcomes, leaving us anxious when things don't go as expected. But the truth is, no matter how much we plan or anticipate, many aspects of life are beyond our influence. By letting go of this need for control, we open ourselves to a new sense of peace, allowing life to flow naturally without the pressure of having to direct every moment. Practicing acceptance of things outside your influence is a key part of this freedom. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up or resigning yourself to circumstances. Rather, it involves acknowledging what you can and cannot change. By recognizing the limits of your control, you're free to focus on what truly matters, your own actions, mindset, and growth. Acceptance allows us to approach challenges with a clear mind, unclouded by frustration or resistance. It's a way of creating mental space for solutions and possibilities rather than dwelling on obstacles. In acceptance, we find the calm to handle whatever comes our way, knowing that our worth and peace are not contingent on controlling every aspect of our lives. Focusing energy on growth rather than control is a powerful redirection that allows us to channel our efforts where they have the most impact. When we release the need to control outcomes, we can invest our energy in areas that contribute to our own development, our thoughts, responses, and goals. This shift brings a deep sense of freedom, as we're no longer expending energy on things we can't influence. Instead, we focus on nurturing our strengths, cultivating resilience, and expanding our self-awareness. Each moment spent on personal growth rather than control enhances our ability to handle life's uncertainties with grace, creating a strong inner foundation that supports us in any situation. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning our desires or aspirations. It means pursuing them with a sense of openness and flexibility, trusting that the journey itself holds value regardless of the outcome. This mindset brings clarity and peace, allowing us to enjoy each step without the pressure of needing to know exactly where it will lead. As we release control, we create room for new opportunities, insights, and growth that we might have missed had we been fixated on a specific outcome. In letting go, we embrace the flow of life, learning to adapt and find fulfillment in the present, liberated from the confines of rigid expectations. Living an intentional, self-focused life is a commitment to lifelong self-care and personal growth, creating a life that is guided by authenticity, purpose, and peace. It involves choosing each day to focus on what truly matters to you, setting aside distractions, comparisons, and the need for external validation. When we make self-care and growth a priority, we cultivate a foundation that supports us in all areas of life. This commitment isn't about living in isolation or disregarding others. It's about centering our lives around our own values and well-being, understanding that we are at our best for others when we're grounded in self-respect and clarity. The journey of living authentically and unapologetically is one of self-discovery and courage. Authenticity calls for us to be true to ourselves, to express who we are without fear of judgment or rejection. When we live unapologetically, we stop minimizing our needs or molding ourselves to fit others' expectations. Instead, we show up as our whole selves, embracing our unique qualities, perspectives, and goals. This way of living brings a profound sense of liberation, as we're no longer burdened by the need to please everyone or seek approval. Authenticity becomes the compass that guides each choice, ensuring that our actions align with our core values and aspirations. Focusing on yourself leads to genuine fulfillment and peace, as it shifts the source of happiness from external achievements to internal alignment. True fulfillment comes not from meeting society's standards or achieving constant recognition, but from living a life that feels meaningful and true to who you are. This focus allows you to engage deeply with your passions, pursue goals that resonate with you, and experience each moment fully. When you focus on your own journey, you're no longer distracted by comparisons or the need to keep up with others. Instead, you appreciate the unique richness of your life, recognizing that true joy is found in embracing your own path. Living intentionally also means practicing self-compassion and patience, understanding that growth is a continuous process. Rather than striving for perfection, we approach life as a journey of learning and evolution, embracing each experience as an opportunity to deepen our understanding of ourselves. This mindset brings peace, as we recognize that our worth is not defined by any single achievement or failure. By making self-focus a lifelong practice, we create a resilient inner world, a place of strength and tranquility that sustains us through every stage of life. In this self-focused life, we find the freedom to live with intention, authenticity, and a sense of purpose. Each decision, each relationship, each experience becomes an opportunity to honor our values and to express our true selves. As we continue on this path, we cultivate a life that is rich in meaning, grounded in self-respect, and filled with genuine peace. We realize that the greatest fulfillment doesn't come from external accomplishments, but from the sense of alignment and wholeness that grows when we choose to live for ourselves, unapologetically and with unwavering commitment to our own journey.